Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another webinar, Branding Best Practices. I'm Ben Frisch, your Simcoe South Georgian Bay Digital Service Squad representative. I'm joined today by Karen Gibson and Sam Evans from our Digital Service Squad team. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. I want to tell you that this webinar is brought to you by your local Digital Service Squad. The Digital Main Street program is brought to you by FedDev Ontario, the Province of Ontario, the Ontario BIA Association, along with the Toronto Association of BIAs. Here in Simcoe, South Georgian Bay, the program is managed by your South Georgian Bay Small Business Enterprise Center with additional support from the County of Simcoe, as well as the town of Collingwood and the town of the Blue Mountains. We're grateful for all of their support in making this possible. If you've not reached out to your local squad to learn about all of the digital marketing supports available to you through Digital Main Street and beyond, do so. You can reach us and find more information at the Small Business Enterprise Center website. Now that's out of the way, here is Karen Gibson to kick us off with branding best practices.
Thanks, Ben. Good morning and welcome to our webinar, Branding Best Practices, Creating a Strong Foundation for Success. Branding is more than just your logo. Your brand is a symbol of your company's identity. It creates a first impression of your company and expresses your value all in one. Your branding should say a lot about you, who you are, what you do, and why you do it. The trick is, how do you create a strong brand that says all that, connects with your target audience, and creates a lasting impression? In this webinar, we will answer those questions and more, giving you a toolkit of branding best practices that create a strong foundation for success. What is branding? Your brand is not just your name, your logo, your website, or your product. Your brand is much bigger than that. Your brand incorporates everything you do to provide an identity for your business while connecting and motivating your audience. It covers the entire experience that a person has with your company. Everything from your logo, your website, your social media experiences, the way you answer the phone, to the way your customers experience your staff. You could describe a brand as a company, product, or service with a personality that is shaped by perceptions or impressions of the audience. It's the image, the emotion, and the message that people experience when they think of you, your company, your service, or your product. It's the art of calling attention to your company, your service, and your product. It's the art of calling attention to your business's distinctive characteristics and personality. It reflects your mission, your vision, your goals, and core values. It's the unique qualities that separate and differentiate you from your competition. It's your promise to your customer. It tells them what they can expect from your products and services. It signifies the style and image you project. Your brand is developed from who you are, who you want to be, and who people perceive you to be. Well, why is branding important? Branding is important because not only is it what makes a memorable impression on consumers, but it allows your customers to know what to expect from your company. Branding represents the human side of your business, the side that customers can relate to and form an emotional connection with. It's that connection that will ultimately drive brand loyalty, customer retention, and in the end, more conversions. It's a way of distinguishing yourself from the competitors and clarifying what it is you offer that makes you the better choice. Branding can change how people perceive you. It can drive new business, help your product or service stand out from the competition, and increase brand awareness. It's critical to be aware of your brand experience because of the overall impact it will make on your company. You need to have a plan to create the brand experience that you want to have. A good brand doesn't just happen. It's a well thought out and a strategic plan. The following 6 best practices will help you develop a solid foundation for your brand. Any questions so far?
No, I think we're good. I think I wanted to just mention too that yeah, one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this webinar was because it is a big part of the digital audit process where we only I say it's a big part, but we only ask 3 questions, right? But they're 3 very important questions and that you're going to address, which is great. But the questions are, is your brand pleasing to look at, I guess, right? Is one of them. Is it like, does it look good? Which is a little more subjective, but then is it
relative? Yeah, it says it relative.
Relevant to the business or industry that you're in, and is it consistent across all platforms?
Right.
Which really kind of helps to tie things together. And just one last thing too is that, you know, we always are very cautious about suggesting a rebrand because it is such a big undertaking. It's a really big deal, and it can be very expensive too, because not only do you have to have it redesigned or whatever, but then implementing that, changing, you know, signage, changing advertising, print materials, everything. It can be a big expense. So we don't recommend changing a brand lightly. Certainly it's better to go through this exercise when you are launching or maybe relaunching and already, you know, having this discussion. So yeah, I'm excited to get into those principles and share that with everyone.
Okay, well, the 6 best practices are, well, the first one is know who you are. It sounds pretty simple, but anyway, your brand needs to know who they are, who they want to be, and how they want to be perceived. Your brand should reflect the personality and values of your business, drawing attention to your distinct characteristics. The reason customers stay loyal to a brand is because of a brand's personality and values. These values reflect what a company stands for, what their morals are, what their principles and beliefs are. The best brands weave their own values into an audience experience, ones that resonate with the audience's own values and personality. Know who you are and resonate. It's all about connection. When you successfully create a connection with your audience, many of them will stay loyal to you for life. This loyalty will help you increase your overall profits and help build a solid foundation of brand promoters. Oh, some of this is missing at the end, I've noticed. Okay. I think it might be the reason because I used PowerPoint and it might have been converted. So some of the lines are missing. We'll have to fix that before I put the PDF up on the, anyway. Okay, the second thing, know your audience. Take the time to learn who you want to attract with your product or service so you can build a brand experience that connects with the right audience. Knowing your audience is a critical aspect of your brand's success. Your audience is the group of people you need to reach with your message and the most likely to buy your product or service. Start by asking yourself, who is the person most apt to be interested in my product or service? What's their story? What is their demographic? Meaning their age, where they live, their ethnic background, their income, their home ownership, their marital status, the number of children they have. What are some of their characteristics? What are their values, attitudes, their activities, their hobbies, their motivations and opinions? What are their needs, goals, their objectives? What can you provide as a company in your product or service that will help your audience meet those needs? The more specifically you understand your audience, the more effectively you can reach and connect with them. This connection or relationship is what will set you apart from the competition. So know your audience and resonate.
And with your audience, I mean, it's also like, if you think about, you want them to, it's not even about the product you're selling, it's how you want them to feel about the product. I'm sure everybody's as guilty as I am, where it's like, well, there's this one product that seems better, but this one that is my brand that talks to me is the one that I'm attracted to, and I'm going to end up buying, even though this other one seems like it does a better job.
Yeah, it's about resonating. Yeah, and it's a feeling you get. Okay, why would you buy an Apple product? Here's a good example: an Apple product over a smartphone like a Galaxy. It's all in how you resonate with the product and what it's giving to you as a consumer. Is that correct, Sam? Do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and similarly, it's, you know, in photography, it's you're either a Canon guy or a Nikon guy.
That's right.
And, you know, they're pretty much exactly the same product, but you stick with what you're loyal to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So number 3, important as well. Know your competition. Know who your competition is. You need to look at your competition through the eyes of the consumer. Experience these consumers as prospective customers to find good and bad experiences. Observe your competitor's personality, their characteristics, the language that they use, the messaging that they portray, the journey and experience their customers encounter. Realize what they do and then craft a message around what your brand does differently. Know your competition and differentiate. Build your entire brand messaging around that differentiator. That's a good word. It's a big, long one, and I get tongue-tied around that one. Next one. Number 4, know your brand voice. Your brand voice or message is the expression of your brand. It's the way your brand communicates its story, personality, and value proposition. It reflects how your product or service solves or improves your audience's problems. It conveys the benefits your audience can expect and why they should buy from you over the competition. It's your promise to your customer. It tells them what they can expect from your products and services. It's what makes an audience relate to your brand by inspiring them, persuading them, motivating them, and ultimately making them want to buy your product. Consistent brand messaging that reflects both your company's values and speaks to your audience is essential to creating a brand that customers can connect with on an emotional level, a core ingredient in building brand loyalty. Customers want to know that you understand them and that you fit with their lifestyle. customers want brands to feel friendly, comfortable, and trustworthy. Like a feeling of, yes, you get me. This is for me. You understand. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. Think of what they might need right now and how you can help them. Let your messaging reflect that. Know your brand voice and connect.
If you think about two big beers, that I grew up with, was Stella Artois, which is, their whole brand is reassuringly expensive, which, even though it's basically the same price point as a Guinness, which, their whole brand is, good things come to those who wait, and you're supposed to, it's supposed to be 119 seconds, I think it is, for the perfect pour of a pint. They're pretty much the same brand, like price wise, but they're totally different extremes of, one is for people aspiring to be fancy pants, and the other one is more, it's a working class drink, it's for tough people. It tastes, for a lot of people worse than a easy to drink summery lager. Even though they're the same price point, they're a totally different audience.
Number 5, know your look and feel. Your brand identity, or look and feel, is the visual representation of your voice and message. It's your story represented through your logo, your colors, your typography, photography, and illustration. These visual elements communicate your story, what you stand for, your personality, and characteristics. Know your look and feel and reflect it. And we had this, we were looking over these slides, and Ben pointed out that when it comes to color and typography and that kind of thing, it's all a representation of your business. It's a reflection of concepts or ideas that your business is built on. Let's say, I don't know, what's a good example, Ben? Because you were the one that brought this up, and it kind of slipped my mind when I was writing this down, and I thought, oh, this might be a good idea.
Well, yeah, I think color theory is a huge part of branding and making that emotional connection with people, right? I mean, often, like, you don't see a lot of yellow logos, but oftentimes like cool colors, greens and blues, tend to be more approachable, down to earth, that kind of thing. Whereas red is just like more vibrant, it's energetic, it's kind of youthful. And yeah, I wanted to show this tool for selecting colors and based on your industry and your brand kind of voice and vision. I'll jump into that after, just so I don't have to waste a lot of time getting out of the slideshow.
Yeah.
So stick around for that. I think it's a really, really neat tool for just really understanding, what color is right for your brand. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it is really cool. I discovered it again when I was doing an audit. And it broke it down, as Ben said, into the different categories, like retail and healthcare and marketing and technology and that kind of thing. And it goes into a little bit of an explanation on the colors that those type of industries would use, which I thought was really, really interesting. Symbolism has a great deal to do with communicating your concept or ideas about your type of business as well. one has to always be aware of what symbols mean throughout different cultures. So when I'm designing a logo, let's say, for example, I do a lot of research before I even start to conceptualize something, because in different cultures, different symbols mean different things from place to place, not even a different culture, but from place to place, different symbols mean different things too. So one has to be aware. That's another thing that one has to be aware of when creating a representation of your business.
And you'll notice with all the logos on screen at the minute, they're all, you know, just 2-color logos. And I think it's, can't remember if it's 60 or 70% of the like top 100 brands only use 2 colors in their color scheme. And I think of that, it's like 30% of that is red and 30% is blue, pretty much, I think. Because, you know, those are the ones that stand out, and blue is a trustworthy color. Yeah. Apparently.
Apparently. Yeah, and what's cool, this tool that will show you, even it actually has like graphs that show, yeah, how many major brands within certain industries are using different colors, and they really kind of chart it out for you. It's awesome.
There he is. Last but not least, the 6th brand basic, I would call it, is keep it consistent. Consistency is key, and the #1 rule in branding your business. Your logo, color scheme, website, print material, voice, customer service, everything needs to match. Every interaction customers have with your brand should express your brand promises and values. Interacting with your audience through a consistent brand voice and aesthetic is a major step towards letting them get to know you as an organization. When they know you, they will identify with you and your purpose. And when they feel like they know you and can trust you, they will be more likely to purchase from you and the more likely to recommend you to their peers. It's a strong step in the right direction to attracting new customers. So keep it consistent to show you are reliable.
And with the consistency as well comes customer loyalty. I think it's like 10 times, it's supposed to be 10 times as valuable to have a repeat customer rather than a single purchaser. Because, you know, if you think about the companies that you keep going back to, or even just the stores that, you know, I imagine you can picture their branding rather than somewhere that you stopped in once, bought one thing and never went back again.
And this is another thing we've also discovered on the audits. Like I said, consistency in everything, in voice, aesthetic, and interaction. Interaction being when people comment or, consistency is key. So you have to keep up with your posts. You have to keep up with the comments that people make and reply to them, because all of those things, all of consistency will build trust. And that's what you need, is to build trust. Because if you've built the trust, people trust you, then they will come to you. They'll buy your product or use your service. And next slide. All of those 6 basic steps, I guess, or basics, hopefully should benefit your business in the long run. Having a strong brand enhances your credibility with customers, your industry, and the marketplace as a whole. As you build your credibility, you also build recognition and loyalty. If you want to set your business apart from others and create a strong foundation for success, follow the branding best practices. Take the time to research your audience, think about your unique brand identity, know who your competition is, and translate those elements to your customers to build loyalty and see your business grow. Thank you. I know it was kind of short and sweet, but basically, those are the 6 things. If you nail those, your business will grow for sure. But you have to be consistent about it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one of the main reasons why we put those, built those questions into the digital audit process, was for the exact reason of, we were looking for properties, we're looking for like a Facebook page that belonged to this business. And sometimes it wasn't that clear that this Facebook page was for that business. Because the branding just wasn't there, it wasn't consistent. Question for you as a designer, what are some ways that clients can maybe protect themselves? Because I know I've seen a lot too, like a business will have just like an old JPEG logo that's low quality, and that's what they've used. And then because it's low quality, someone else comes along and says, oh, let's just make some changes for this particular job. And they start using that. And then all of a sudden they've got 3 different like look and feel, completely different logos. How can people protect themselves against going down that rabbit hole, I guess? Or that path that
well, I think it comes to, because the people that are using that logo are either within your organization, or you're sending it to a print company or whatever. You as the shareholder of your company, it's basically your responsibility to make sure that the logo doesn't change all the time, and that everybody's on the same page. Everybody within the organization is on the same page. From your CEO to your sales person to your retail employee. Everyone needs to be on the same page, and it has to be clear. It has to be a strategy within the organization to keep everything the same. A lot of companies these days actually develop design guidelines once their logo is designed. So what colors can they use? What colors can be used? If the logo is going to be on a black background, let's just say for an example, we're going to use white instead of using our colors. So everything has to be consistent across the board and throughout the organization constantly. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, for sure. I think
Okay.
it actually reminded me too about working with TD Bank many years ago. They have a whole portal because when I first started working with them, they had a PDF document that was about 360 pages for their brand guidelines. And then they moved it to an online portal, which was really great because then you could access different assets. You could really easily find the different, sections, as you said, like the guidelines around what do we do in this instance or that instance. But one thing that was really, really interesting was that TD Bank still had a problem with consistency because somehow a different shade of green found its way into the mix. I think they changed or they rebranded where it was just a little bit brighter, but the confusion around using which green was kind of mind-boggling to me, that it actually got that far, that this massive organization was still having trouble with that. So I think the moral there is that, do your best. Things will maybe get away from you, but always try to reel that in where you can, and delete old files that are no longer relevant, because to me that was a huge problem for them.
Yeah, it may not be that obvious to some people, but it is obvious to others, especially depending on the color. I think also what has happened too over the years is because now that before everything was print, right? So in that instance, we used, I don't know if everybody knows this, but CMYK colors in print, because the presses would run the cyan and then the magenta, and so creating a 4-color thing. Now it's RGB, so which is on the internet. So I think okay, when I started, I know I'm blabbing along here. When I started in the print business. So we used either CMYK or we used Pantone colors. Pantone colors are specific colors, and a lot of the large organizations like Coca-Cola, TD Bank, use Pantone colors. But then when we went to all digital, I think something happened and people lost their Pantone color, and then all of a sudden the printers were trying to match colors, and then all of a sudden the printers weren't matching the colors. Now it was online, so the color got, well, basically screwed up. I think that's what happened. And then so people aren't using Pantone colors as much anymore. I know small companies are, because they do cost more. So when you're like printing a business card and you have 2 colors or something that are specific, there's something that gets lost in the translation. Hence again, guidelines.
Right. Yeah. And I think actually that answers my previous question about, really protecting yourself. I think you really kind of nailed it there. I think like even starting with a guidelines of like a 1-page, like here are the hexadecimal RGB values and CMYK values for our brand colors. I think that is vitally important. If anyone doesn't understand what that means, essentially, so if you're working in either print or designing for web, you always have the option of picking a color based on either 3 methods. Well, Pantone potentially too, but as Karen mentioned, it's more obsolete now. But the hexadecimal value is just like a 6-digit number letters that make up the color. That you can share that value with anyone, and if they use it in Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever program, even like web programs, WordPress, they will all have the same color. Which
I think the hexadecimal is the way to go, actually, because everything's mobile now. Yes, we do print, obviously, but because everything's online, your website and all your social media and all your advertising, your posts, whatever. Hexadecimal route is probably the best way to go.
Sweet. And so speaking of color, I'm going to share my screen right here, and I'll put this link in the chat for everyone.
Oh yeah, this is a great site that I found.
And so this is 99designs.ca.
Yeah.
And they have put together this tool for logo colors. And there's a drop-down menu, so you can select what industry you're in: accounting, agriculture, healthcare, legal, marketing, PR, real estate, retail, technology. It's amazing. So if I select, oh, I'm already on retail, and we can check this out. There's like a huge amount of background. Here's the chart that I was talking about, which colors for retail stores, well, turn into gold.
Notice how the blue is quite prominent.
Yeah, these are the most popular retail colors among industry leaders. So 59% choose red, and it's kind of a mid-range red instead of a bright red, as opposed to like pink or browns. Very few choose pink or brown.
Yeah, well, pink is probably a more of a feminine thing. If you were selling perfumes or something, that might be a way to go. But again, it depends on a lot of things.
Right, and
basics.
Yeah, and what's cool about this tool is that they go through all of those factors, right? From determining what your brand personality is by asking questions, like the gender, the tone, the value, the time, modern or classic, the age, the energy, and then it even has like this really cool slider, so you can actually kind of take your business plan and apply it to this, and even maybe potentially help, like this would help you think about things in your business plan you might have not have already thought about, like the masculinity. Is it masculine, feminine, or is it neutral? Is it playful, serious? Is it luxurious or affordable? I'm just gonna swing these around and I'm gonna see what color we end up with. I'm gonna say it's fully modern, it's somewhat youthful, and somewhat loud. Or and you hit show me the color. It's gonna spin around. Black.
Love it. Nothing wrong with black.
Simple, classic.
Yeah.
And it says luxurious, and it gives you a readout like why black. Yeah, basically this is a very, very cool tool for selecting colors, for understanding about color theory. This is a really neat kind of breakdown as well, that shows sort of what are the feelings that are attached to or associated with different colors. So red being more about passion, vigor, speed; green about nature, refreshment, growth, balance; blue, knowledge, tranquility, security, trust. And so, I mean, you can see why a lot of like big brands, if you can kind of connect them in your head to why they might have chosen these colors, right?
This is why it's not so cut and dried when designing a logo or your brand ultimately, because there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes. If you want to get it right, if you want to attract the right people to buy your product or service, it is all relative.
And likewise, you want to look at what your competition's doing. If you notice that all of your local competition are doing it in red, even if that might be, traditionally better for your brand, maybe you want to be looking at, say, black, because it's disruptive kind of thing. And if the market's saturated with the one thing, then maybe you want to be different. Again,
differentiating from your competition.
I always think about one example of here in Canada, I mean, Future Shop versus Best Buy, where, you know, they're literally the same store. I think they even had some like the same ownership, at least at one point. But it really came down to the branding. You know, it was just like blue or red. You know, one was that sort of fast-paced, you know, energetic look to it. The blue was more knowledgeable, trustworthy, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know, like for myself, I was always drawn more to Best Buy than Future Shop. And I think it really just came down to the branding. There was really no other reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 6,000 logos we see every day, which really shows how you know, need to stand out. And it's, you know, 90-something% of the top brands have a logo that's recognizable in very small size, which, you know, now that we're all on mobile phones is even more important. If you think of, you know, the big logos, there's not a lot of detail like Nike, Twitter, things like that. Even though it might not, the actual logo might not mean anything to you, you recognize it even in its, you know, smallest possible size.
And because there's a lot of repetition too, of the same, and that is what people recognize. So it's not just color. Also, I noticed Maggie chimed in there for a second, and she talked about, I think she mentioned something about Amazon. This is back to symbolism again. So from basically Amazon's logo tells you that you can purchase anything from A to Z, and there's a smile underneath, and then again a sort of an arrow. So that's sort of that whole symbolism thing. It gives the impression or the idea of how they have all those products and they deliver it with a smile and that kind of thing. So that's how symbolism comes in.
And yet, conversely, Twitter's logo was $15 from iStockPhoto.com. And I'm not saying that they didn't put a whole bunch of money into deciding that it should be a bird, that kind of thing, but the actual logo was peanuts. Whereas the BBC spent over $2 million redesigning the logo, which was exactly the same logo, but now with a box around each letter. Bargain.
And that raises a good question in the chat here. Does shape of your logo play a part in customer loyalty?
Well, shape again is symbolic. I don't know. Eventually, yes. So it's a symbolic representation. So, you know, what I'm trying to think of shape. The triangle represents the three corners of, I don't know, I'd have to look it up. But
I know that Starbucks's logo is round and their tables are round because apparently it makes you feel less lonely when you're sat at one of them.
Yeah. Well, because
as opposed to a square.
Circle of life too, right? Hey.
Well, I think the application of the logo plays an important role as well, right? Where I feel like social media has really driven logo design, branding design in some ways because of the fact that like they've all kind of switched to a circular profile picture, right? For your profile, for your business page, whatever. And so if you have a long horizontal logo, it's just not going to fit. It's not going to look good.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of new companies are designing logos based on, you know, fitting within that circle. How's it going to look on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter?
It's kind of the same as the square too. Like, well, I mean, the circle fits into the square. So, and it was also to be compact so that, okay, even in the print industry, we called like it was the square because it would fit on your hat. The logo or symbol would fit on a shirt. It would fit on a mug. It would fit on different things that you were printing. And now it's within the circle because the circle is where you're supposed to put your logo. So yeah, you don't want anything spread out too much because then it doesn't work in any application really. Well, yeah, it does in a letterhead, but does anybody use a letterhead anymore?
Well, that's it, right? I mean, our usage has really changed
It has
over the years, right?
Yeah, and logos as well. You know, if you think of like Amazon, for example, you know, I think the majority of brands actually have a longer thing, but nowadays, like a landscape logo, I think it's like 60-something%. But if you think now, it's, you know, you have your long full logo, but you also have a circular version and a square version in your brand guidelines, which is why whenever you do a job for a big client, and it's like you have to sift through this PDF of, okay, well, it's going in the corner of a video, so corner of a video is horizontal, but when we upload it to something, then it needs to be uploaded as a circle, and so on and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not complicated, but it is. There's a lot of theory.
The simpler you can make your logo, the easier. Everyone should just have a simple Nike tick.
Well, yeah, I mean, you hit a good point too, though, about simplicity, where I feel like you probably get asked this a lot, Karen, or like when someone's describing what they're looking for in a logo, they're just throwing like all of their ideas at you and thinking that it has to sort of encompass or show everything that they do. And
yeah, before I design a logo, I actually send out a questionnaire and I ask people, because okay, you could be a retailer selling dresses, but that still doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I need to know the whole essence, the whole, like, the history. What is it you want to accomplish? What type, who is your target audience? Like, I need to design a logo that's built on everything about your company. I can't just, like, it can't not be built or designed just based on, oh, well, it's a dress shop. Awesome. It still doesn't tell me, is it a youthful dress shop or are your customers in their 60s? That makes a difference. A 15-year-old is going to wear torn pants. A 70-year-old is possibly not going to wear torn pants. Maybe they will, but probably not. So again, back to symbolism and how I come up with these things is, or how it should be done, is based on who you are, what you do, and how you want to be perceived. Do you want to be perceived young or old? Is that what your product is about? Did I answer the question or did I ramble again?
I got it. The other thing that we've not mentioned is brand halo effect, which is probably useful for small businesses. And the halo effect is where essentially individual brands benefit from other brands' reputations sort of through association, which is why you often see collabs like GoPro and Red Bull, or Uber and Spotify. And like supermarkets as well, their own brand, let's say baked beans, will be next to the premium Heinz beans. But, you know, in small business town where we are, you know, if you collaborate and you both brand very well with somebody that is either in your industry or complements your industry, you know, if I go to the pub and the local beer is very well branded, you know, they piggyback off each other.
Okay.
Those are some very British references today. Here.
Am I sitting here going,
Yeah, well, you know, when you've come out pit and you want to wet your whistle.
Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we might just wrap up there. And just a reminder, we've got our contact information. If you haven't connected with your digital service squad yet, you can contact us by phone. We've got a webpage up at the enterprisecenter.ca, as well as a calendar booking for getting started. If anyone hasn't heard, the $2,500 digital transformation grant from Digital Main Street has the application deadline was extended to the 15th of December or until grant funds run out. So definitely, if you are eligible or if you think you might be eligible, get in touch with us. We can get you started on that, but you want to do it before well before the 15th, because that money might run out before that date. So
what about the audits?
And yes, and absolutely, audits are another service that your digital service squad can offer to you and your business. And we look at not only your branding, but your whole digital presence profile, and we put a variety of best practices against those properties to give you a report with some really key action items to make things make them better, make your marketing stronger, make it easier for your customers to buy from you. So that is a free service. You can book it with us anytime. We're happy to connect. And and Marjorie is asking, if I want to apply for the grant, do I have to sign a contract to continue after the free time is done? The Digital Service Squad is actually around until February 15th. So there's no there's no charging you for work. We won't do that. We're gonna work as hard as we can till that deadline and get everything done that you need done. So if you don't have time before the holiday season, you still have about a month and a half to connect with your digital service squad for other supports that we can offer. So hopefully you reach out before that deadline. But yeah, we look forward to hearing from everyone.
And the webinar next week?
Yes, the webinar next week is social media buzzworthy content creation with Rochelle. And we're really excited about that. So not only about just creating content, about creating buzzworthy content. So telling inspiring stories, shareable stories that will get people talking. So you can register for that free. Also available at enterprisecenter.ca in the events section. All of our webinars are there. And that's it. That's
Thanks,
all I got to say.
And listen, get hold of us if you have any questions. We'd be happy to help. And I'm glad you came.
Great. Thanks so much.
See you all soon.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.